Alright, so today we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming changes to Victoria 3, and I'm going to be explaining why I think that they are a wonderful step in the right direction. Now, to begin with, I'm going to give an overview of my opinion about Victoria 3, and I mean, it should be fairly obvious. I've got an entire channel orientated around it at the moment. I obviously am passionate enough about the game and enjoy the game enough to do that. So yeah, I quite like Victoria 3. I think when it works, it is a wonderful game. But sometimes it doesn't work. And that is what needs to be changed. I think that criticism for this game can fall into one of two camps, one of which is reasonable and the other isn't. The reasonable kind of criticism is, well, the kind of criticism I just gave. The game systems don't work as intended, you get screwed over by arbitrary game mechanics, and yeah, especially in the military system. As I'm sure we all know, and as I've shown several times on my channel, the front system just screws the player over a lot, like really often. And yeah, it's just not good. But I think the more unreasonable camp of criticism that I see for Victoria 3 often asks it to be something which really I see no reason why it should be. Take the military system. Now, as I've said, it sometimes just doesn't work as intended, which is obviously an issue, but a lot of people don't even like this system in theory. They don't like that the combat system is abstracted. They don't like that you have, or that you don't have, rather, little guys that you move around on the screen like you do in all other Paradox games. And I guess my response to that is, this is a game where I want to micromanage my government and economy. I'm already micromanaging a lot, and I think it's a good thing that I'm micromanaging a lot because that's why I enjoy Victoria 3. I don't also want to be micromanaging my military. I just find that slightly annoying. And to be perfectly honest, guys, Victoria 2's combat system really wasn't very good. I much prefer, even with all its issues, I unironically much prefer Victoria 3's combat system to Victoria 2. I am someone who just does enjoy the government and economy side of running a country in, you know, my hypothetical fantasy map game much more than I do controlling a military and invading other people. That's just me. I understand a lot of people are different, but so in that way, I'm perfectly happy, and in fact I think it's a good thing that the combat system in Victoria 3 is abstracted. It allows me to focus on the things that I want. Now, I'm a bit hesitant to make the argument that everyone else should feel this way. What I would say is I'm a bit confused as to why someone would be a fan of the Victoria series and be disappointed that Victoria 3 is going in this abstracted way, just because the emphasis that Victoria has always had, at least the second two games have, I haven't actually played the first one, the emphasis has always been on the economy and the government. I guess I'm trying not to come off rude, but if you want a military game, play Hearts of Iron 4. Hey, if you want a little bit of a better mix between the two styles, play Europa Universalis, play Stellaris. I'm sorry, I just don't understand at least why there is a fundamental issue with the military system in Victoria 3. Now that said, can be made a lot better, which is actually the purpose of this video. So, they're reworking the military system. We saw this in a dev diary a few weeks ago. I'm not going to go through the dev diary in depth. There are plenty of other creators that do that, and honestly, I find that less interesting to do as a creator. I much rather give my opinions rather than a comprehensive overview. But I will go over at least the main few points. First of all, just before we address any of the actual changes, they're going to be rolling this out in betas. we are going to be able to use test versions of this new military or reworked military system before it is released in the main game. I think this is fantastic. It allows Paradox to make any slight adjustments they need to. I personally do believe this combat system is going to be pretty well received. Obviously, we haven't gotten our hands on it yet, so I can't be sure. But let's say hypothetically something is quite wrong. Well, at least they have a chance to fix it. And we're not stuck on, a slightly shit military system, God forbid even a worse one, for several patches until they rework it again. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, not that I've been going for that long, but anyway, oh my god. The gods have answered my calls. They're fixing the front system. Thank God. Unironically, as many issues as I think there are with the military system in the game, I think about 60% of my lack of enjoyment that I get because the system isn't great is removed by them fixing all the shenanigans that happen because of the goddamn front system as it presently exists within the game. I think specifically what they're doing is, so when several countries are on a geographical side of a war, there's going to be a shared front between them. This makes way more sense than what it was. I mean, take my Vietnam game where for whatever reason, the front against Burma and Thailand were two separate fronts. And because of that, the British AI got confused and sent its army to a front just as it was about to get destroyed. And then because that front got destroyed, the troops all left. And then I lost the war because there wasn't enough troops quick enough to defend the front, and half my territory just got taken over. This happens all the time in Germany as well. Obviously, the way Germany was back then is there were just a million tiny little states just everywhere. And if I haven't played Germany for this reason, but if you have played Germany, I'm sure you're aware. Oh my God, trying to manage all of those individual little fronts, it must be a nightmare. And it looks like they have fixed it. Now, the next change in this sort of realm of fixing the front system is that they're changing how the front movement works, as in when you actually take territory, when you move a front forward, they've changed how that system works. What it used to be is you would actually capture a set number of provinces on the map. This led to all sorts of issues where you might have one province that was adjacent to one country but not adjacent to another, and therefore it would create a front there that was just a mess to deal with because maybe the opponent would have an army ready for that front, but you don't, so you have to set one up, but by the time you do, they've already taken half your territory. This has happened to me before. That's what made me lose that war in the Vietnam video. It happened in my most recent Grand Columbia video as well, although that one didn't screw me up, thank God. What they've changed it to now is that instead of having provinces, you just have a percent of the state that's been occupied. I'm not entirely sure how they represent that visually. I can't really tell from what I'm seeing here, but I definitely can understand how, if you're modeling it as a percentage of the state, then you're not going to actually have any information about what province borders what. That's just not relevant, is it? I believe that's what is going on here. At the very least, I think this is a great change. The only thing I can see is it might be a little less satisfying to see your front move forward because it's not a province-based system. The front might just look simpler, less interesting, I don't know. And again, from the images that we're seeing here, I can't actually tell what it looks like on a visual level, but I suppose we're going to find out. Either way, I prefer it looking a little worse if it actually works. That sounds great. Now, the last thing that I will talk about today, which I think is a really good change, is the addition of military formations. Now, essentially how Victoria 3 works at the moment is you have armies, you supply those armies with different amounts of battalions and of course actual supplies, so you can upgrade their equipment once technology improves, this and that. Now, I think there's a few issues with this. One, it can often feel like you have very little control over what your army actually does. Now, remember I said that I don't really mind the system being abstract, so I don't want that to be micromanaging. But I do think there is a way to do it better than we are, or probably is rather, in a way where it feels like the player has more agency. And I think that this military formation systems has the potential to be far better than what we have in the game at the moment. Now, we can see that there are now different types of battalions within each army. Previously, it's all just of the same kind. So you can actually specialize your army a bit, which does at least give the player some control over how their army might behave. Really, the only control you had was your commander, but that's sort of randomly generated anyway, so that's not really that great for player agency. And also, of course, the quality of your equipment, but there's not really much strategy behind that. That's just better equipment is better. There's really not much thinking. Whereas now this actually has thinking put into it. It, at the very least, has the potential to feel more like you have a chance in a battle where you don't have as big an army, or maybe your army is slightly less technologically advanced. It feels like now there might be the opportunity to actually manipulate the system in a strategic way where you can actually make some gains. You can actually get something done. So yeah, basically they're adding strategy to this relatively abstract system. So even though you won't be seeing your little guys move around, or actually that's not true. Okay, we don't see them move around, but we have more visual representations of the actual war happening. So that's sort of an aside, but I do quite like that as well. It does show the effects of your actions, which is always good. Just having visual confirmation that something is happening on the map. That's always better. Yeah, I think this is a really good way to add some player agency, to add some strategy into this combat system, but also at the same time, not sacrifice what actually makes this military system worth having in the first place. So yeah, in conclusion, I do just kind of think that this system is just a better version of what came before. It doesn't fall into the trap that I was hoping Victoria 3 wouldn't fall into after some of the criticism that it got at release, or even before release, where of just people not liking the fundamental idea behind the combat system. So yeah, it fixes the issues where the game doesn't work the way it's meant to, while also giving the player at least a feeling of having more agency. We'll see how it actually feels when we play, when it comes out in beta. When does it come out in beta? Let me double check that. It comes out on the 28th of August. Oh my! That's tomorrow. I am in Australia, so it might end up being the 29th, where I am. But oh my, that's tomorrow. Okay. Well, I'll definitely be making a video on it then. So expect that in the near future, I suppose. Additionally, this is being rolled out in 3 betas before they actually add it to the 1.5 release. And so I will be playing the betas, all 3 betas, when they come out. So yeah, thank you for watching this sort of admittedly very rambly video. I'm deciding to sort of do different kinds of Victoria 3 content and see how they go. I do enjoy making gameplay content, but I definitely don't want my channel to be just like the same video over and over again. I think, well, I don't particularly enjoy that. I enjoy making them a lot, but not them being the only thing I make. And also, I do think there's quite the risk of if that very specific kind of content stops doing as well because the YouTube algorithm has stopped smiling upon it for some reason. Yeah, that kind of just kills my channel if that's literally the entire thing that it's based around. So yeah, we're gonna start seeing these kinds of videos a little bit more. Maybe not just this specific kind, just me trying different things within the Victoria 3 sort of space. And of course I will continue to play different games from time to time, although Victoria 3 for whatever reason is working quite well. So yeah, and also I noticed news came out a while ago. I just thought I'd give my opinion on it because I need a video to make. That's literally the only reason. I just have no better ideas except for part 2 of Grand Columbia, which will come at some point, but I don't want that to be directly afterwards. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, all that jazz, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.